Second time round.
Well, you're very kind. Thank you.
I guess I'm here to try and make the point that design is not only about style, although I also do agree with Oscar Wilde, who once very wisely said that only a fool does not judge by appearances. But here I'm contemplating these very wise words of Buckminster Fuller. The best way to predict the future is to design it yourself. And for those who don't know him, Buckminster Fuller was a remarkable American inventor, poet, enthusiast. He popularized the geodesic dome, which you see in the background here, as well as the Dymaxion car, perhaps not one of his most successful products. It had 3 wheels and managed to run over a spectator when he launched it at one of the American World's Fairs. But when he spoke, I think there was something really interesting about the idea that design is a way in which you can predict or change or understand the future. One person who certainly did design the future and change it was Steve Jobs. And it's remarkable to think that this image of him launching the first iPhone exactly 10 years ago in Cupertino has done so much to change the world. He teased his audience when he showed this for the first time. He said he was going to produce a 3-in-1 product, an enhanced iPod to play music, a telephone device, hence that dial, remember dials on phones, and also an internet communication device. And he came up with this, which, as we know, has, in the last 10 years, sold, just Apple products alone, 1.1 billion things. When we first saw it, we thought, that's rather curious. Until now, phones have been getting generally smaller, and this thing is bigger, and it's got a strange absence of buttons, but it's changed everything. And I think even Jobs would not have predicted that it would have produced Uber, Airbnb, and Tinder, which between them have changed almost everything, from the way that we navigate a city, how we get around, how we take our holidays, how we make money from our homes, even how we meet people and fall in love. But all of these things also have unintended consequences. So what initially seems like an unalloyed good thing starts to look more negative, sometimes. So one of the big changes has been the way in which we've seen what I sometimes call the mass extinction of objects. All these categories of things that we once used to measure who we were, to give to each other, to hand on to our kids, to remind us of them, has really been replaced by that digital world. So this is a typewriter. We have one at the Design Museum. And, of course, trying to explain to a 12-year-old what this thing does is quite complicated, although one of my colleagues came across a very smart 12-year-old who got it right away. You mean it's a laptop that prints just as you type? I actually have not that blue typewriter, but I have a typewriter at home that my father gave me. In those days, it was actually a useful product. I'm that old, but I now keep it to remind me of him. But I can't imagine giving my daughter my smartphone or my laptop. It's interesting how the wristwatch, however, is somehow managing to hang on. The fact that Apple used the form of a wristwatch to create their new wrist product has, I think, actually given it a longer lease of life. I think another effect of what's been going on the last 10 years is to create a kind of hollowing out. This is the Waymo, Google's autonomous vehicle. Google probably won't produce these, but somebody will. And that is going to fundamentally change the way that our cities work. We won't own these things. We will call them up on our smartphone, so we won't need a parking place. And it's also very likely to kill off even, to have an emotional relationship with a car that drives itself is beyond even the most dedicated petrol head. So the world is going to be this, or it's going to be, for a very few people, this, the handmade Ferrari, which will become like buying a work of art or owning a private pilot's license. Or on a more mundane level, in the home, furniture is either going to be self-assemble from IKEA, which is becoming more and more straightforward to do, or it's going to be something more like the work of art, the limited edition. William Shockley, who was the inventor of the first transistor, was aged 45 years when he started what later became Fairchild Semiconductor in 1955. Larry Page and Sergey Brin were 25 when they started Google in 1998. And Mark Zuckerberg was just 19 in 2004 when Facebook was born. And this is the headquarters build. This was Facebook's first headquarters building in Silicon Valley, which was actually originally built by another startup called Sun Microsystems, which was kind of the Apple of its day when it started in 1984. It had completely vanished 27 years later, having shot across the world, having thousands of employees, built this building, which then was treated by Zuckerberg as a kind of industrial ruin. So fast is time going by. And here he is with Frank Gehry planning his next HQ. So, to me, design is not just about providing technical answers to the problems and briefs set for us. It's also, I think, a time and a place to be asking questions about the consequences of some of the things that design can do. A designer can be a critic as well as someone who's making things for a profit. It is a way to understand the world, but it's also sometimes about making it a better place. Thank you all so much for listening.